What kind of advice do you have to homeowners?
Practicing that preparedness. Starting the conversation now is always going to be a benefit to any association out there.
Welcome to Recovery Report Live. I'm Dan Odess, president of GlobalPro, where we manage risk to recovery. And we have managed more than $1 billion in recovery and helped thousands of community associations, business owners place insurance. We are insurance coverage experts, so make sure you call us first if you need assistance with your insurance. Today is July 7th, 2022, and it happens to be episode number 107, so 777. We are excited to talk about summertime. Summertime, we're all headed on vacation. We are planning to leave our residence. Now, if you live in a coastal area, that means being prepared. Being prepared while you're away, making sure that your property, your business are prepared in the event that something were to happen while you're away, right? And there's many different ways you can prepare. There's things you should do, things you should not do. Now, sometimes we even see that there's recommendations made that I would not highly encourage you to do. Let me say it that way. There's things that people talk about doing that they should do but don't do. So we want to make sure you have all the information you can use, and there's many different ways that you can get information from us to help you, your business, and your community association prepare for hurricane season. Prepare for summertime. Summertime when people are away, people are coming and going. You may have a lot more tenants in your building if you're a manager of one. Building has a lot of, let's say, Airbnb or short-term rentals, maybe or longer rentals, maybe week, 2 week long rentals for that summertime. But how are you going to manage this situation in the event that something were to happen? And I'm really focused our conversation today on hurricanes, right? So first thing I want to point to is our website. It's something I don't talk a lot about, but I really want to make sure that you have. So get out a pen, paper. If you got a notes thing, if you're using a MacBook or something, load it up and write this down or type it out. GlobalPro.com, real simple. GlobalPro.com, all one word, .com. And what you'll see at the top menu bar is a section called Resources. In Resources, if you click on it, there's many different things under there. Everything from our Claims Advocate, which is our newsletter, full of information. They're actual articles written by our staff on important insurance topics that impact you as business owners or community associations. Also in there is the Storm Center, the GlobalPro Storm Center. Now, the Storm Center, just generally speaking, we'll get a little more detail on it, providing you some good updates on storms that are threatening or storms that have caused loss and damage in our communities. Now, we're not the Weather Channel, so you're not going to get day-to-day updates in there, but we are and will update it with the most important information that we have at that time, and we'll continue to update it as far as recovery efforts and things like that if an actual storm were to hit. You'll also find some insurance claim tips. Now, insurance claim tips is basically a spreadsheet of do's and don'ts. At the top part, you have the do's, and the bottom part, you have the don'ts. It's your most common losses that we see or that we see our clients experience. Whether you're a business owner or a community association, there's some good do's and don'ts on what to do with hurricane claims, water claims, fire, theft, and it kind of goes through a little bit of a list of those things and then breaks down. Now, from one loss type to the next, some of the things are similar. I would say the majority of them are different. We try to give you as much information as you can use. So we thought a lot about the do's and don'ts. And while I could argue that any one of the do's may relate to one of the other claims, the types of losses, I could say the same thing for the don'ts. But for that particular type of loss, we wanted to make sure we highlight something very specific to that type of loss that you should consider. Some of the things that you should not do, some of the things that you should do. And sometimes we spend a lot of time talking about the things you should do, but don't acknowledge the things that you should not do. And usually the should not are the hard lessons of others, and it's a lot less expensive and will help you expedite your process if you learn from the past and others' mistakes than by making them yourself, right? So check that out. Definitely want to hit that. So I talked about the Storm Center, right? So go ahead and hit it. It's globalpro.com, hit the resource section, you drop down to the GlobalPro Storm Center, and as I mentioned, not the Weather Channel, but actionable information. That's what we're always about. That's what the broadcast is always about. That's what we want to make sure you have that information. It's a click of a button. Now, there's a lot of drama when it comes to the storm season, and I would say that leading the way is a lot of times we see the Weather Channel, and some other outlets that really they create a lot of drama on this stuff. So we want to get away from the drama. On that page, you're also going to find more helpful links. One of those helpful links is the 2022 Hurricane Prep Tips. That's important because every year we update it with some things that we may have learned from the prior storm season. So this is the 2022 Hurricane Prep Tips, and it goes into much more detail than the do's and don'ts of the insurance claims tip page specific to hurricanes. And I highly recommend that you start at the top and read down through, and it kind of takes you through each and every phase. In the broadcast from last week, I talked about this question: when's the best time to call GlobalPro? And I said it repeatedly today. Call us first. One of the things that we do if you were to call us today is we want to evaluate and determine your risk of loss. What are your exposures, right? And I don't think a lot of people spend the time to think about that, as opposed to the easier thing, which is right now online, clicking and buying and whatever it may be, that you're told by the Red Cross and various other outlets that you need to prepare for a storm specifically. Now, great information. We have links to that stuff as well. And a lot of it is incorporated into some of our messaging and information that's contained within our website and marketing materials. But something that's not as encouraged, I wish it would be, is just evaluating your situation today, right? And there's no storm coming on shore. There's no storm that just passed. Just looking at your properties today and looking at your surrounding areas, right? And a couple things, right? Particularly for community associations and that are in the densely populated areas. One of the things I would say is, are there any new structures or buildings in and around your building that, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, 2017, let's say was the last Hurricane Irma came through here. There was a building to the left and right of you, but there was no building at all in front of you. There was no obstruction of your view of the beautiful coastal area, right? And now there's 2, maybe 3 new high-rise buildings. Maybe one of them's even taller or bigger than your building. How is that going to impact your property? And you think it's like, what are you talking about, Dan? Okay, well, think about this. Follow me. So when buildings are erected up and around each other, and wind travels at and then around those properties, what happens is, depending on the direction of the wind at any given time, which changes during a hurricane because you get a different direction of wind as it comes at you versus when it's going away from you, right? Because the winds spin, right? So it's coming at you and then it's going away from you. So, and as the wind direction changes and shifts, the intensity of those winds and pressures in those storms may change due to the new buildings in and around you, which there's a lot of like high level conversation about vortex and turbulence and various other different types of wind characteristics that could lead to more intense, stronger winds and changes in pressure, which may directly impact your building. And if you aren't thinking about this, I definitely encourage you to start consider this in your assessment of it. And one of the areas which you pay particular attention to is your pool deck areas or open areas, open common areas where you might store things, planters, you might have furniture. Now, whereas once before those things were, you had the wind that kind of passed through that area, now you have this turbulent, churning wind that comes off the corner of the building that's now directly in front of you. It may change, again, what may happen following a storm or during a storm, and the damages you find following that storm. So start thinking about these things. Another one is that as there's been this sprawl and development and new construction, at times bodies of water shift, new canals, new lakes. They redirect certain things. Also, as you dig into the earth, and our water table is pretty high, right? And you pour concrete and you fill and you fill areas that were once occupied by water and everything else. That water needs to go somewhere else. It gets displaced, right? So start to look around your area for these new developments and changes to these bodies of water. And one of the things you can do is the Army Corps engineer or reach out to your local emergency management to talk about, has there been any changes to the stormwater management? Are they going to flood certain areas in order to relieve flooding or the potential for flooding? And one of the things that happens common is that they do, for preventive reasons, open up certain areas to allow water to more easily flow. Well, that may inundate your area and cause damage to your property. Now, so it's a pretty good idea to kind of reach out to these different organizations and have this conversation with them. Like, has anything changed? Have you noticed anything different? Maybe you haven't, but maybe you should still ask the question, right? You should anticipate the potential differences in your situation. That's situational analysis. That's determining your risks. That's part of it, right? So, and this is a long-winded way of demonstrating to you that there's a lot of information contained within these websites, on these web pages that can be helpful to you. But don't just glance over and assume that you know what's going on. Make sure you think about things differently. Obviously, our team is here 24/7. Always willing to take your calls, respond to your emails, your messages, DM us on social media. We're on there. Send us a direct message on Facebook, Twitter, whatever you want, whatever your mode of communication that you prefer is. Reach out to us, let us know how we can help you and walk you through some of this stuff. But I definitely think, spend the time to understand these things. I think I'd bring up two really good points. The one is about, the stormwater management, and the other one is the changes in the environment around you that may impact the wind and the pressures that your building and its apparatus may experience now. In today, as opposed to yesterday, with all of the tremendous amount of growth that we have seen when the real estate market was really bumping and growing fast. It's really important that you understand how that growth and the speed at which we grew may impact you. And unfortunately, there's areas like Edgewater, Brickell area that have suffered tremendous amount of flooding just recently from Ida. We're handling a number of those claims. Just a quick reminder, your flood policies that sold through the NFIP, National Flood Insurance Program, most often have a 60-day requirement in order to produce proofs of loss and all of your total amount of your claim. Make sure you adhere to those things. Make sure you look closely at those things. Make sure you understand whether or not that time period applies to your claim and your loss and damage. And if you need any assistance with any of that stuff, let us know. There is an appeal process. So if you don't feel as if you got what you should have from your claim and you recently experienced flood, we can assist you in navigating that process. It is complicated. It is difficult. It's certainly, if you don't have experience doing it, you can make one wrong move and your appeal will get thrown out. And there's really no way of going back on that. It takes a lot of effort for some reconsideration, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. I strongly advise you, if you've suffered any flood losses recently and you're not satisfied or you haven't gotten paid, reach out to us. Let us know the status of things. Free consultation. We're not going to run and jam a contract in front of you. We want to help you through the process. A lot of managers out there know what we're all about. We want to fully understand your situation. We want to get to know you. Again, we're not just purely transactional. It's not about today, it's about tomorrow. We want to help you through this process. Again, answering that question from last week's episode, when's the best time to call GlobalPro? Call us first. Call us today. Let us know what we can do to help you through that process. If you have suffered loss and damage and you're not even sure whether or not you've gotten paid what you are owed under your insurance, you're just curious as to, you want data, you want information, you're curious as to how well your product has performed for you, your product being the insurance policy that you purchased. In today's world, access to that information is quite difficult. Most often the information that's being reported on is by the industry. Typically, we get these think tanks that project. They use some algorithms and some data and information to project what the estimated loss and damages are from a major event like a hurricane. And I have yet to ever see any one of them accurately identify with any sort of reasonable amount of certainty the amount of loss or damage suffered following a storm. And I say with any sort of accuracy, it is remarkable how different the initial reported dollar values are than those that ultimately are reported, if at all reported. Unfortunately, there's some issues in reporting. And prior episodes, we talked about accountability and claims and the information being used to lobby for this anti-consumer legislation, which recently passed last year. It just keeps passing, and passing, right? At some point, I assume the banks and other industries are going to wake up and realize that the insurance industry is raking in a tremendous amount of profits, and they're just really not reporting on these things accurately. And so Griffin Data Services, a sister company of GlobalPro, launched an app called Claims Calculator. You can go on claimscalc.com, check it out. It improves the consumer and industry confidence in the payment of real property insurance claims. Okay, what the idea is that we want to provide you access to information, somewhat like when you're going to buy a car. You would go on cargurus.com. You would go on various other different, KBB.com. You want to understand the value either on your trade or the car you're going to buy. You want a rating on that deal. CarGurus does a great job of it. They say it's good, great, bad, good, or fair. It's based on a proprietary algorithm that it takes into account consumer reportings on those dealerships. We do the same. What Claims Calc is striving to do is to provide the consumer in the industry real information, real data about the claims relative to the market. So go ahead and check it out. It's really simple, and within a few minutes and a couple little steps, you're going to get actionable information back, information you can use in determining how your insurance company paid your claim or how the adjuster paid the claim. So if you're an insurance agent or broker and you have clients complaining, concerned about how they're getting paid or how much they got paid, or maybe you just want your claims people on your staff to have more information, and as the claims get processed and you get those estimates, you want to make sure that your clients or your policyholders are getting what they're entitled to or getting paid relative to the market, getting paid properly. Well, here you go. Go on to claimscalc.com. It's free. Go on there. You get a short or a long form report in a PDF. It's very easy to use. Any questions whatsoever, you can hit the contact us button and submit an inquiry, and the team will get back to you on that. So a lot of information there. We want to make sure that you have what you need. Knowledge is power. That's what this entire episode was about. We want to make sure that before you jump into a lawsuit or think you were underpaid or make any bad decisions, maybe you leave without properly preparing your property or your business or your community. We want to make sure that you have the knowledge you need, have the information you can use. Knowledge is power. Let us know how we can help you. And if you haven't already, like us and follow us on all our social media. We are your resource. As insurance coverage experts, we want to make sure you have everything you need. Thank you so much for tuning in this week on the Recovery Report Live. We'll see you next week, same place, same time, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Recovery Report Live.